Live here.
Live!
But we don't have to necessarily know what that means.
What's the someday of black?
I don't
there's
know
a
that we
reason
want to-
this story happens now.
Ladies and gentlemen, the movie writes itself.
Ooh.
Well,
I'm still streaming. How do I stop streaming? No!
never gets old.
Never gets old.
So
Just like us, Ben. We
I
never get old.
apologize for the baby crying in the background and the incredibly disheveled hair. New father woes. What can I say?
I mean, Ben, this is just what you normally look like, baby or no baby. Like, oh, I've got a baby now. Oh, that's the reason why.
Like running, I'm like,
I look
I've
like
got like the baby in one arm, and I'm like, I need another cup of coffee. Oh shit, I'm running late. Ah, fuck. There
How is
you
new
go.
fatherhood treating you?
Oh, I love new fatherhood. I love new fatherhood. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. Something's going on with your microphone today. It's a little echoey. It's kind of like got this like.
Let's see if it's plugged in. Let's
Let's
just make sure that's something.
Yeah. And now you're gone.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, now that's the Jake Thornton I know.
There you go. There
Yeah.
you go.
All right.
Yeah, I think I got to lose the Yeti mic because it interferes with our screen sharing.
Really?
And while I like the way that it sounds when we
You
screen,
know,
we get an echo.
I've had no problems.
Yeah,
None.
for some reason mine is, and my setup, it's just causing an issue. But you know what? It's because I share your screen, you don't share mine.
We'll have to, you know what? We'll have to switch that and see if my mic.
Yeah, I
does
just think we have that. We have a Google Drive issue that I've still never been able to figure out. If you remember,
that I don't really understand.
so weird.
That I still can't
These
understand.
people are like, listen to these guys like Penny.
Woes of us like talking about our random setups, technology setups. Although, you know, for anyone else who's out there like in a partnership, like this is the shit that we deal with on a daily basis as far as like tech stuff. I mean, even like definitely for the last almost 3 years, pandemic wise, we've had like to deal with, okay, what software do we use? Are we on FaceTime Messenger or Facebook Messenger, FaceTime, Zoom, whatever it might be? We screen share. A lot of people use various different softwares that will allow you to write on their own document, but there's this delay and it drives us insane. That lag drives us insane.
It's weird, isn't it? Because screen sharing works so instantly.
It does.
There's no lag in it whatsoever when we do it via, the way we do it is we actually do it via Mac Messenger.
Right.
Via messages.
Yes.
And if you click on, if you have it open on your computer, when you select a conversation on the left hand side, you go up to conversation and ask to share screen or invites to share my screen, and that's the way that we do it.
And it's been fantastically useful.
It has.
Really. And we've been doing that even when we worked in the room together.
Yes, that's right. We would.
We used to sit at two desks. We actually had like sometimes it was two desks pushed together. Sometimes then I got that giant table that was like, you know, with plenty of room. And then you had an L shape where you were on one side and I was on the other. We'd have our laptops or sometimes your iMac. Yeah. And we would screen share so that we didn't have to like look over the other person's shoulder.
No, exactly.
We were able to look at the same screen.
It always worked very well. And it does that, or it does audio with that too, but that sometimes interferes with whatever.
And you got to like mute one thing and not the other thing. But I'll tell you, with remote working, I will say I was very nervous about, you know, you not being in LA anymore and me still being here. And would we be able to make this work? Yeah. But we have. Technology is amazing. And other than the fact that I can't literally punch you when I
punch me in the face.
You,
here's the thing: the advantage of that is that also I can't punch you in the face.
That's true.
True.
Yeah, I guess it works both ways. All right. So today, January 4th, the Wednesday. Anyone who's just joining us, welcome back to Ben and Jake Write a Movie, where we hope to write a movie live.
One of these days.
We're inviting you into our virtual living room that we get into every day.
Yeah.
And yesterday, I'm actually going to skip over the business talk today, if that's all right, because I feel like we have a lot to talk about on the movie itself.
Yes.
Unless there's a topic that you were thinking about, we could do 10 minutes on.
I was only going to, and it's not so much business race, but it is craft related.
Okay, sure.
It's basically something that we're experiencing at the moment, which is we're exploring a new way of working. And I found it to be interesting to explore it. And to be clear, we're in the middle of exploring this new way of working. So
no idea how it's going to come out.
No idea how it's going, but I just wanted to kind of like feedback and just explain our experiences with it. So first of all, let me explain the way that Ben and I currently work. We do this. We're doing what we're doing right now, which is we outline together. We get together, we discuss what we want our movie to be, and we write what the outline is going to be. That work is done together in the room. Then we divide that outline up sequentially. So pages 1 through 3 will be me. Pages
approximately
will be Ben. Again, approximately. Again, we kind of look at the scenes and go, how many pages do we think this is going to be? How many, whatever it is, And then I go away and write pages 1 through 3. Ben goes away and writes pages 4 through 6. When those pages are done, we send them to each other. We have carte blanche to change anything and everything in those pages. And again, though, we have outlined together. We have talked through normally at the beginning.
As detailed, if not more, than what we're doing on this podcast.
Absolutely right. And then we rewrite each other's work.
Right.
With the complete faith going, you can do whatever you want. If you don't like that line of dialogue, don't like the way that line of actions, if you think there's something missing, add it. If you think there's something extraneous, take it away. And then in the afternoon, we get together, we combine those pages. And typically we've done maybe between 5 and 8 pages a day that have been rewritten by each other at least once. Okay. So that's the way that we typically work.
Right.
We get through a first draft perhaps in a few weeks.
3 weeks. Yeah. About 3 weeks. Yeah.
So, we're working on a spec at the moment, another fun concept. And we just like to try a new way of doing this. We've outlined together. So we have the outline traditionally as we're doing it here. But Ben had this observation, and it was really interesting. He said, I wonder if there's a way to play more into our strengths. And I said, well, what do you think our strengths individually are? Ben said, what did you say about yourself, Ben?
Putting me on the spot. What are my strengths? I think I tend to be my strengths are in the details. I definitely am more of a meticulous kind of writer who I take my time and want to make sure that I dot the I's and cross all the T's, and so I think and I also think I'm really good at looking at work and going, this is what doesn't work and this is what does. This should get moved up to here. I think I'm a really good rewriter. I think I have a very good grasp of seeing dialogue and going, this is either we could say this in 2 words or we can cut it completely. Or, this is actually really needed for the emotional part of this scene. It actually needs to be expanded. Sure. And yeah, I think I would say those are definitely strengths of mine. What would you say yours are?
Well, it was interesting because you kind of told me what you think my strengths are. You said, that you always feel that I am eager to get words on the page. Yeah. And that I'm this kind of like horse chomping at the bit, waiting to be let out of the stalls. And that's absolutely right. I do have this, energy of wanting to get something out there. Yeah. So Ben proposed this. He said, Jake, you take the outline that we've written and you write the whole first draft. You do everything as if I wasn't even here. And then I am going to be rewriting after you. So, for example, now this actually worked out really well because you were away.
I was away.
You were away on vacation with your lovely family and left me at home in the rain of the Pacific Northwest.
With your lovely family.
With my lovely family, absolutely. So during that week, I wrote Act 1 of our new script. Again, based on the outline that we've done. Now, we weren't talking much that week. For Harvey, it was like, you're on vacation, go and enjoy yourself. So, you know, I wasn't talking through any new ideas that had come up. And I don't think that would normally be the case. But anyway, I wrote that Act 1. And then Ben has, since then, over the Christmas break, rewritten that Act 1. Mm-hmm. And was able to go, oh, that was in the outline. That doesn't actually work. We don't need that. Did what he would normally do. Mm-hmm. And yesterday we read through Act 1. Mm-hmm. And it was interesting. It was, what would you say that your takeaway from it or your experience of it was yesterday?
I mean, I would say that I thought it was good. I think interesting is usually a word that we use when we don't like the end result. So I'm curious, actually, for you to now tell me what was so interesting about it.
Oh, well, I think what was interesting about it was that I got the same. I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about it.
That's true.
I wasn't sure. So that's what I mean by it was interesting, because I came to it with trepidation, because the communication hadn't been as fluid as perhaps it might be in our other way.
I had that experience when I first opened the document to look at your pages.
Totally.
That was more me going, okay, I know Jake has written this, but it's my job now to rewrite it.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's coming next, although I know the outline we wrote and I know what we agreed on being in each scene. But then I'd come across a place and I'd go back to the outline and be like, oh, this isn't in the outline.
Right.
Why did he add this? Did he add it? Does it work? Does it not work? Mm-hmm. Do I agree? And having that, semi-freedom to just go, no, I don't agree. And just do it. Totally. But there was trepidation involving that because my feeling was, I wonder how he's going to feel when he reads this.
Yeah, sure, totally. Well, I guess the way I felt when I read it yesterday, ultimately, was, again, it's like, how can you remove yourself from this and just view this as a document that may one day become a movie? And so, were there things that I missed in it? Yes. Were there things that I think could be different? Yes. Were there things that were better? Absolutely. So it was the experience that I normally get when we're doing the other way of working.
Sure.
Which is, some things I really like, some things I'm not sure about. But again, ultimately, this is a living, breathing document.
Yeah.
There's a delete key. There are extra keys that allow you to write new words on your keyboard. So we can change this document as and when we want to. And it will be then, we are just in the process. And ultimately, it is, while it's not a first draft, essentially it is, but it's just gone through a few more stages of what that first draft looks like. So one of the things that I think, and we talked about this yesterday, that we like about this method of working is it gives us freedom outside of typical work hours to work whenever we want to. So when we're working in I'll call it the old way, you're working as I'm working.
Yes.
As soon as we get off the phone in the morning, I'm going to do this scene, you're going to do this scene, talk through what it is. You're working, I'm working. I can't start doing any more work until you finished. You can't start doing any more work until I finish.
Right. And we write at different paces.
Absolutely right. And there are times when you have been waiting for me or I've been waiting for you.
Yes.
It's fine. I go away, do some painting, whatever you do, play some video games, whatever it is.
Video games.
Soothe your baby daughter. Spend time with baby.
Little Horizon Forbidden West.
There you go. But typically, there's that. But sometimes that happens. But this is like, okay, I want to do some writing at 10 o'clock at night. I'm not waiting for your pages. Right. I perhaps have a little more freedom doing the first draft.
Yeah, because I can't do anything.
You can't do anything until I'm done. But as we were saying, I tend to write a little faster.
Well, and that's why.
And that's it, isn't it? And that's why. Is it comes down to how do we
came out of a conversation about efficiency. And here's and it came out of a conversation of going, okay, we're going into 2023. Mm-hmm. And what is our goal for this year? And our goal, personally, the two of us, is to write
900 scripts.
Well, I think we said we'd like to write 3 new specs this year.
Yeah.
And generally speaking, that's not something that we normally achieve, because we're usually going out for assignments or putting pitches together or doing other things that suck time away.
Yeah.
And so I felt like it actually came from a tweet from another writer that we know who is in a partnership, and he was talking about him and his partner and their strengths and how they work.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. And actually, it was the same kind of dynamic of one is really good at the first draft and one is really good at rewriting. And I was like, I wonder if that's interesting. I wonder how that would look for us.
Yeah.
I think that the challenge is, and I would say, I don't know whether this will be the way that we continue to work. And I think the reason is, and I'll be perfectly frank about myself, is that there is an ego aspect to the work that you do individually that is not the same as the work that you do together.
Yeah.
And so way back in the day, we would write every single word together.
Yeah.
And there was literally no ego involved, because it was just, we wrote it all together. Yeah. Then we started to shift gradually in different ways into our current work. And because we would only do 3-page chunks at a time, it still felt like that final, because we'd read it through and polish anything we wanted to change. So day to day, it still felt like we were writing together.
Yeah.
This way feels more like you've written something.
Yeah.
And then when I rewrite it, it feels like I've written something. When there's new dialogue and new scenes, or like I was just working on a scene last night that is the same intention of what you had written, but different.
Yes, totally.
And so there's an aspect of going, are we able to put our egos aside to just go, okay, that's what the other person wanted, and they have their reasons, and okay. Or are we not? And I think that there's going to be a challenge when we come to, I foresee a challenge when we come to the second rewrite.
Yes.
Because you had the way that you wanted this movie to look, and I have changed that to be the way that I feel the movie should look.
Sure.
Using what you've written as a jumping off point, and also using our outline as the previous jumping off point. So it's not like it's that far away.
No, it's not. But
it's still different. And so the question is, when we go into the third draft, now it's not just 3 pages that we might be arguing over a point. It's the whole script.
Right.
And so whereas we might in the past go, you know what, I don't like this scene, or I don't like what you changed in this scene, or, you know, I really missed that beat, but it was only one scene.
Yes.
Now you're talking about, oh, I don't like this, but it might affect 10 pages or 20 pages.
There was a moment yesterday, wasn't there, where we were talking about time.
Yeah.
I was like, this doesn't affect me so much, but it might affect, there was an amount of time taken in between an event. And had I not been further on, that would have changed the way that something had happened in the future as well. So, I mean, ultimately, I think, you know, there are pros and cons to this way of working. I think having done it, when we have done it in a few weeks' time, we've got this first draft done, we'll be able to say, we know what that's like. And if in the future, we might decide we want to continue doing it and find that it's a great way of doing things, we might not. But it could also just be a way of working that we can utilize if we need to in the future. You know, if our schedules changed, if we're in a different country temporarily.
It's another tool in the toolbox.
It's another tool in the toolbox to be able to go, okay, here are the challenges that this way of working presents. Here are the benefits. How does it look?
Well, I think, you know, as a screenwriter, and we've now really learned this multiple times, but mostly with The Princess.
Yeah.
The reality is you're going to be rewritten.
Yeah.
In some way. And so there is, I think, a benefit to consistently checking your ego and going, yes, I wrote this, but maybe there's a better way. And I think that means not just from you to my draft, but also from my draft to our joint
Totally.
rewrite.
Yeah.
And going, well, I thought I came up with the best way, but maybe there is a better one.
Yeah,
And so knowing that going into any professional project and knowing that there's probably going to be someone who comes on board at some point to polish your script, rewrite your script, tear your script down. The difference is, I think what's nice is that we go through that and then we actually do have the opportunity to come back and express our opinion, whereas most of the time we wouldn't.
And ultimately, as well, isn't it? It's with each draft, are you, pushing the ball further down the field? Is it getting better?
Yeah. And what we said yesterday, and I think it's true, I think the test of this process will be how soon do we have a draft that we're ready to send to our manager?
Absolutely right.
Because if it's the exact same amount of time, then we just go, okay, which do we like better?
Yeah.
If it's 3 weeks sooner,
then
we go, oh, we actually could produce more material. That 3 weeks of the whole draft.
Yeah.
And I think that that will be the true test.
That will be the true test. Yeah.
How quickly, and of course, how quickly do we have a draft that we, not just our first draft, but a draft that we like enough to send to people? And this is a lesson for any writer out there listening. Don't just fucking send off a first draft to anybody. Don't send off a first draft to, your mom. Sit down and read it yourself, do your own notes, put your producer hat on, do a rewrite, look at your pages with a really intense eye, because no one wants to read a first draft.
It's interesting. Again, Stephen King on writing. He talks about the fact that, he talks about this advice quite a lot, and I actually think it's a really good advice, which is put it away. This is obviously books wise, but I think it applies to screenplays too. Take some distance from it. Yeah. Put it away for at least a couple of weeks. If you're working alone, this really applies. At least a couple of weeks, and maybe it does to us too. Who knows? I don't know. We've never done that. We've never just gone, I'm going to forget about that script and then come back. But it was interesting because last year, toward the end of last year, we did read a script that we'd written, and I was like,
two.
And I went on the fantasy one, when I don't think this is the best version of the script.
Actually, 3 then.
Yeah, sure. I went, I'm not, but it's sometimes you do need that distance. But yes, I agree. It's don't send out that first draft. Point being, don't send out the first draft.
Don't send out first drafts. Yeah. Don't do it.
Let's get back into this project. We're just going to do a quick strip show here. What did Michael say? Michael said, hi from the UK. Hey, Michael, you're one of my people. Just popping in to say, I'm loving this podcast. Thank you. I'm a little behind, episode 15. So it oddly feels like I'm talking to you guys from the past right now. And boy, it's love back here. There's a brand new Hank character who's cool. And I can't wait to find out if ever Jake gets the potting shed he keeps talking about. We did for a while, and then we took it out. I think it's still in there. I think it's still in there.
Shed? I don't know.
Yeah. I'm checking it out for now. Pesky spoilers. So if you respond to this, I'll only hear it sometime in February when I've caught up. Keep up the goo. Keep up the good. Probably keep up the good work. Fine. And then my wife told me I'm looking good. Thanks, Siri.
So yesterday, I threw a little wrench, a little thing into our machine. A curveball, which is the concept that we're working on as fresh and bold as we think it is. Is there a way to clean it, or even less clean? It's more about finding that thing that goes, I could tell you this movie in a sentence and you'll go, I see it, I get it, that's a movie.
Sure.
And we got a question at the end, which was, because we spent a good half an hour talking through the kind of challenge of this. And we got a question at the end that basically was like, well, is this the time that you would normally
put it on a shelf,
take it out behind the barn?
We'll come to that later.
As they say. And our answer united was no. Actually, it's not that time. It's nowhere near that time. Yeah. So I think today we need to challenge ourselves to go, what is the best version of this movie. And I love everything that we've outlined, and it
I do
may
too.
change those things and it may not. It may actually just infuse more meaning into those moments.
So I've been having a little think about it.
Okay.
Over the last 24 hours.
Right.
Talking it through.
Mm.
And I'm gonna ask a question, and I don't come to it definitely knowing the answer.
Yes.
But there is a version. And it's actually about who this movie is actually about.
Okay.
Because currently it's really about the female demon character in our mind, played by fantastic Charlize Theron.
Sure.
And we come into this world going, there's something weird, she's weird, it's weird, oh, there's something magical, strange going on.
Yeah.
Oh, she's a demon. Oh, she's a demon, but she's living her life in suburban America, and then she finds out this thing is happening. And it feels like we follow her arc through.
Right.
And it was, partly the pitch that I threw out yesterday regarding how we would explain this movie to someone, going, what's the more interesting way and what's the more human way in, a way that people might understand? Isn't necessarily, it's a story about a demon, like you naturally understand what a demon is and how that demon would then have rejected hell and decided to come to live to on earth as a regular human being. But like, I don't know if that's part of the kind of complex nature of it. But if it were, and again, I understand that this is not the way that Terminator begins. I know we reference Terminator a lot. Terminator starts with, you see Arnie show up, you see Michael Bain turn up, and you follow him for a little while. For at least I think you said it was like 15 minutes.
It was a long time. Yeah.
And then you meet Sarah Connor.
Right.
But I just wonder if that's right for this movie. If we were following this girl, our Sam character,
so you think the main protagonist, shifting the protagonist to Sam?
Shifting the focal point. She's living her life. She's a bit of a druggie. She's got some issues. She's trying to get out of this life. And then suddenly, she fucking discovers there's people in her house who are trying to kill her. She runs. Someone's trying to save her. And it's like, what are you doing? It's like, you're the Antichrist. I'm what? What the fuck are you talking about?
I'm going to pause you.
Yeah. Anyway.
Because I'm going to counter the question with another question.
Great.
How does that solve the problem? Because here's what I'll say. Yes, that's a movie. That is, in fact, a version of the movie that we've been writing.
Yeah.
But that's also part of the problem that I'm observing, which is both movies are equally as valid. Both movies potentially work. Neither are the type of root core that goes, this movie can't actually function in any other way.
Sure.
Because conceptually, there actually hasn't been a change.
I hear that, but I don't necessarily think that a conceptual change is necessary.
Well, I'm not
feel like if the human way, if the character way in is this, I have much more kind of urgency and
I'm not bumping on
with her.
I don't mind it. I'm not rejecting that pitch. The problem is that's not what I was bumping on, and that's I guess what I'm saying. Like, this is absolutely a valid conversation and would be something we'd probably address in a rewrite and go, is this right that we're doing it from this character? And so it's good to talk about it now.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure that I agree, but it's worth a broader conversation.
Totally. Yeah.
I think that the issue that I was bumping on coming back from the break is, okay, great. So that's a shift in protagonist, but how does that create the truly fresh and unique movie that we're looking for, other than just change, and not a bad thing, change it to a human protagonist whereby we connect with them more. But the pitch is still complicated and our favorite word, execution dependent, unless there's a thing that you're thinking that I'm not hearing, which would be a flip on what Sam is, a flip on what this journey is, a flip on who the villain is, a big, bold idea about what the Antichrist is. Like, so far, all I'm hearing is and this is another way to write this, which is
valid.
valid.
Yeah, it's valid. No, absolutely. Yeah. And I don't necessarily think I was kind of coming up with that. I was kind of just trying to feel my way into it. It was born out of the question of like, how do we pitch this movie? And ultimately, that was the question that I was left with. Of course, everything you're saying, we talk about today, absolutely right. Is it conceptually clean? But if you were to say, you know, this is a chase movie whereby someone has to stop the Antichrist from emerging before Sunday evening, I might go, oh, okay, I understand what a chase movie is. I understand it's got something to do with heaven and hell. It's not that it's not quite clear or clean enough.
Right.
But I do get a cleaner conceptual idea rather than going in a demon and a demon hunter have to team up to save the Antichrist because they're being hunted by demons. They're also trying to get them. They're actually trying to save our life, but they're going to like that. That becomes the messy conceptual stuff. But if you were to say, like we talked very early on, you know, you've got to get this woman who could become the Antichrist to holy ground before Sunday or the world is going to end. I go, oh, okay, I can kind of understand what this movie is. You've got to get.
I think there's a cleanliness of plot. I think that gives me a cleanliness of plot, and I think that's good. But it doesn't make me go, oh yeah, that's a movie.
Okay.
And I'm being ultra critical about the idea because I feel like I want us to make sure that we've kind of looked over. This is what we were talking about our different strengths and things. This is my, like, I'm literally picking it apart. But I wonder, like, for example, is there a version where you would go, you know, you'd start off by basically saying, this is a movie that's, you know, all right, we've got a story. What if the Antichrist was a 22-year-old girl living in Portland?
Yeah.
You know? Sure. And I go, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's a flip on what I might think of as the Antichrist. Perhaps. Maybe it's not big enough of a flip. I don't know. I don't know really what I think of as the Antichrist, to be honest. You know? And the only way to stop the Armageddon is for a demon to save her from transforming, you know, and that's like the back.
The interesting spin could be
the only save for humanity is actually a demon from hell.
Yeah,
right.
But get this: the only person who can save her is a demon who's given up demonhood.
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
So now I go, if I'm just seeing it that way, it's like, oh, guess what? The Antichrist. Actually, just a 20-something woman in Portland.
Yeah.
Why? We'll get to that.
Yeah, totally.
And who's going to help save humanity from her? A demon.
Yeah.
And that's now making, and that's, I'm kind of going to almost bring this back. It's interesting to our very first conversation about this idea, which is what's interesting. Well, what if a demon was actually the hero?
Sure.
That was what we were flipping. Because you always think of demons as the villains. You haven't seen who can we think of a demon that's your protagonist? At what point have we seen a demon protagonist other than maybe Hellboy? You know, and so that was why Charlize ended up as our protagonist, ultimately, because that was the big flip.
Sure.
But is there a way to look at the idea of an Antichrist as also the big flip? Is there a way to have both and to go, this is a movie, like, this is not a movie that you're expecting because our Antichrist is just a girl.
Totally.
And the savior is a demon from hell.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because
that's
interesting. And it actually made me want to go back to an older version of Hank, where actually you don't meet Hank properly. You think he's an antagonist until early act 2.
Yeah, it's not even a buddy as much as it is. Yeah. He becomes someone who's part of the movie at like the midpoint or late 2.1.
Totally. He's out there hunting. You think he's one of the bad guys.
Right.
And then he becomes an ally.
But I think, and here's what I would say: if we were in a room, if we were in a general, and we were meeting with one of our producer colleagues,
Yep.
and they said, "Well, what are you working on, guys?" And we're like, "Well, we've been doing a podcast, we've got like 50 episodes." Watch it. But no, really, we go, "Well, we've got this movie, and it's awesome." And it basically asks the question: what if the Antichrist was a 22-year-old girl living in Portland? And what if the savior of humanity was a demon from hell?
Right.
And I go,
okay,
so what is that? And then it's a chase action movie whereby our demon from hell realizes that they can save this girl by stopping her transformation to becoming the Antichrist. Only get this, she's got lots of people after her. Other demons, demon hunters, and the cops.
Yeah. Nazis and the IRS.
Nazis, the IRS, all of the bad things. Aliens.
Just love Nazis and the IRS.
Monsters. Ghosts who aren't demons.
Ghosts, vampires, werewolves.
They're all coming for her. But no, I mean, like, honestly, that's the pitch where I go, okay, that's really interesting.
Cool.
Now, what I would also say, though, is, just to try and keep running with this, how do we make this fresh? Our version of Sam actually leans into what I would expect if I'm telling you that the Antichrist is actually a girl in Portland who's in her 20s. What I wouldn't expect is if she was a soccer mom.
No, that's...
what I wouldn't expect is if she's like, a sweet, works for a charity somewhere, then I go, wait a minute, what? The Antichrist is, it's like if this were a fairy tale, you go, what if Cinderella was the Antichrist?
But I worry. But with the fact that you're laughing, makes me go, I worry if it borders into comedic territory. Because there is a comedy movie where it's that. How can I be the Antichrist? I gotta get my kid to soccer on Sunday.
Yes, no, there's a lot of humor absolutely in that. And I would say on the one hand, the humor is not a bad thing, especially in this type of movie. But on the other hand, the tone of it is going to come down to us and our voice, and it's going to end up that.
I mean,
I'm also laughing because when I go, what if Rapunzel was actually Arya Stark? And it's like it's the polar opposite. We literally did a flip with the princess where we said, what if your damsel in distress actually was a badass? Yeah. So I'm going, what is the version of a damsel in distress in 2023? What is the version of the unexpected badass who actually becomes a badass because she's becoming the Antichrist?
Well, let's have a little conversation because there is something deeply interesting from a character perspective about it.
Right.
Someone who is powerless, who is perhaps meek or very devout,
doesn't stand up for themselves,
who discovers this power.
She's becoming a demon.
Ultimately, she's becoming a demon.
She could start having demon powers.
Yes, she
could literally become a badass.
And it becomes part of her character growth, whereby she acknowledges that she has that side of herself. And while she doesn't need to succumb fully to that, although that will be the battle that is going on inside her, that there's a moment at the end whereby you go, she's not just going to go back to being, in this particular case with Sam, Susie Homemaker or whatever it is, but to be this new empowered version of herself. And I find that to be interesting.
Yeah, and I wonder if there's, a version that does all of that still has the unexpected aspect of it, that isn't overly comedic either. I mean, the soccer mom is kind of a joke, although I have to say, I'm a soccer dad, and the moms that are with me at the soccer games love that they're soccer moms now. So it's not like it's a jokey thing, but actually it's not like a bad thing either. At the same time, I go, is there what is the most unexpected version of the Antichrist that one would never, no one that she knows would ever expect that she would have to save. I mean, essentially, she's got to save the world too, right? From herself.
She could destroy the world.
She could destroy it. I mean, like, here's either the destroyer of the world or the savior of the world. It's going to be one or the other, right?
Yeah.
So who's the person that no one would expect doing that? And who's the person who is going to be fun to watch becoming that also? Like, because there's a version where it's Melissa McCarthy. I'm not interested in that version.
Thinking. I just have Melissa
McCarthy. I'm totally not interested in that version of this movie.
Yeah.
But there's also a version where it's Rose Byrne. And that's an interesting version of this movie to me, because I could see her, and granted, this is the much older version of Sam, but that's okay. We don't have to be limited to 20-year-old.
No, not at all.
Imagine Rose Byrne. Imagine Rose Byrne, who's just like this nice, friendly, neighborly,
She's Rose Byrne from Peter Rabbit.
Yes. Rose Byrne from Peter, who's a novelist who no one would think. No, she wouldn't even hurt a bunny,
totally.
And this is the woman who's going to destroy the world. And then you have a demon who you're expecting to be villainous and horrible, and you expect a demon to be evil.
Yes, you do.
And we would find a way to also do a fun flip on that. Now, again, you could go really comedic with this movie, and you could have the demon not be... you could actually have Charlize be Melissa McCarthy. And that's a funny version of this movie as well. Again, leaning into kind of big, broad comedy. It's not really what we're interested in writing.
Yeah.
But... what is I like what we've done where it's like a demon who doesn't want to be bad anymore.
I do too.
What does that look like in a cool way? What is like if I just say that, so it's a movie about a demon who doesn't want to be bad anymore. That's a movie all in and of itself. That's just a high concept, period. So what is that? A demon who doesn't want to be bad anymore. Like the ultimate embodiment of badness, the ultimate embodiment of evil, doesn't want to be bad anymore. So like I feel like if we could find a way to kind of do that whereby it's not high comedy, although maybe the most sellable version of this movie is a high comedy. And guess what, guys? This isn't going to be Ben and Jake write a movie. It's going to be Ben and Jake pitch a movie. And then all of a sudden...
Ben and Jake produce a movie that someone else writes.
And we're going to produce it. And one of our viewers is going to end up writing it.
There you go. Exactly right. Yeah.
Because maybe that's the most sellable version. I don't know. This is the brainstorming part of this process, just going, what is the most high concept version of this movie?
Yeah.
When I go, what if the Antichrist was Rose Byrne living in Portland as a soccer mom? And the only person who can help stop her from destroying the world is a demon who doesn't want to be bad anymore.
I think I instantly go, oh, I'm really intrigued by that.
That's a good pitch. I think that's a good pitch.
Yeah.
I am excited about that pitch.
Yeah.
I just don't know tonally what that movie, like the first vision that I have is it's not the R-rated version we've been talking about. It's not the Terminator anymore. There is absolutely a version that is the PG-13 4-quadrant version of that.
Oh, there absolutely is I completely agree. There is.
It doesn't have to go all the way comedy. In fact, if you were going to go comedy, you'd almost go R-rated comedy with it.
Yeah.
I
think we play to our strengths, which is fun. We're good at fun. Yeah. I don't think we write comedy.
Definitely not live. Definitely not live. Guys, we're funny, but we're not that funny.
Not funny. Look funny.
I think you could lean into the 4-quadrant fun. I'll use an example of a movie that I found that I laughed so hard that I like cried. You guys didn't like it, but it was the recent Sandra Bullock movie. That was with Channing Tatum. Can't remember the name.
The Lost City.
Did I lose your volume?
The Lost City.
Yeah, I lost your volume. Can't hear you anymore. That's okay. It was something that Jake is saying. He actually knows the okay. People listening to the podcast can't see you miming, Jake. So this is actually really not fun.
Yes.
So anyway, the point is that there is
Siri is saying that she can hear me. People can hear me.
You're not muted on here, so I don't know what's going on.
I don't know what's going on, but people can hear me. I'm going to have to write this down on a pad.
We're live. So Jake is going to try and fix his technical difficulty.
No, I'm not having technical
difficulty. Literally no reason that I shouldn't be able to hear him right now.
Can hear me.
Oh, guess what?
You put your volume down.
It was my technical difficulty.
People can hear me.
I know. I see. The problem is I see Siri's comments on the side, and I just think she can hear you from the other room.
Ah, right.
So I didn't realize that she meant I could hear him
online. Isn't it? Not like, oh, why can't I hear you?
I must have hit the mute button. Anyway, apologies.
Anyway, so it was called The Lost City. That was
The Lost City. So that's like, or like one of those movies.
Like The Lost City.
I mean, would you imagine us writing an Indiana Jones movie or a?
I didn't. Well, from the first 10 minutes of that movie, I was watching quite a goofy comedy.
Jewel of the Nile, or
Jewel of the Nile, I would say, is more of an Indiana Jones movie, but The Lost City was a goofy comedy. You know, for me.
I mean, yeah, there was definitely comedic moments for sure. I mean, it was a comedy, but I would, okay. It definitely had a big adventure aspect to it.
Just go. I mean, there are elements in this in the current version of the movie that I like.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say what I think those are. I really do like this character of Sam. I'm not saying I can't find other characters that I like, but just say what I do like. I like this character of Sam. I like the metaphor we're making for this kind of like drug lifestyle addiction, and this on this kind of like parallel metaphor with this kind of inner darkness that is this demonic entity kind of trying to come out. I think I found that to be interesting and intriguing. I found her character to be flawed yet deeply likable. The fact that she wanted out of this situation, I really liked that. I liked when I was imagining the movie, the visuals of it. It felt, as I look out at the wind and rain, kind of dark rather than big splashy color, you know. And I feel like it's starting to add these big kind of bold characters. And I'm wanting to be careful about, I said this earlier, of not leaning into the comedy of, you know, how can I be the Antichrist? I've got to make dinner at 5 o'clock. You know, like I want to be careful of that. And yet I do like the idea of going, what would you not expect? And yet I don't think it's 100% necessary. So anyway, I kind of come to it with mixed feelings.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm just looking at it going, the version that we have just doesn't stand out of the crowd without something else going for it that makes you go, oh, I haven't seen that. Like everything you're saying, I don't disagree with it, and I'd watch it, you know, but that's a dark, gritty, probably feels a lot more like Constantine, or, you know, like it's going to be, you know, grays and, you know, tones of the kind of like, you know, it's a serious movie about a drug addict who is going to literally take over the world. The problem is that we have at the moment, well, number one is we haven't fully leaned into that. So you do have things that are not tonally consistent fully with that, like Hank, or even Charlize's home life. But
Sure.
or even the moments with Zod. There's an inconsistency in terms of tone there, but there's also just a lack of me going, oh, that's really unique, or that's a big idea. I think right now, Siri says she likes the Rose Byrne version I pitched. I think what I'm looking for, and whether it's, I don't like I just said 5 minutes ago, I don't want to lean into, we're not doing a broad comedy version of this movie.
No, yeah.
But I don't think that at the moment and I love gritty R-rated dark movies. I watch them religiously, but so far in this idea, all that has been doing to me is playing into what I've seen before.
I hear that.
Everything about it just kind of feels a little worn, instead of me going, I've got an idea you've never heard before. Guess what? Boom.
Okay.
I feel
can I pull back from the soccer mum because it's bumping me?
Yeah, sure.
And I'm going to do the version that you'll like, which is, what if she's a librarian?
My wife's a librarian, everybody.
She's a meek librarian, quiet, unassuming, lives alone with her cat, sweet, charming, likes to bake.
Into every cliche of every librarian ever.
Yes. But I mean,
my wife is a librarian.
Here's the thing. But my worry with the soccer mom is you play into every cliche with the soccer mom too. Like you say them and you go, I have instant ideas of what you mean by soccer mom because it's a cliche, So, but again, but ultimately, it's leaning. The reason to lean into a cliche is so you can then subvert it by going, but get this, they're the Antichrist. That's why that's what you actually use that. But my worry about the soccer mum is it feels like the high comedic version of it. Again, that's just one version. Like the librarian's just one version.
Here's the thing. Yes, there's the cliche aspects of a soccer mom. I use that term liberally because, like I was saying when I pitched it, I know a lot of soccer moms who are just moms. And it's not it doesn't have to be the Legally Blonde version of soccer mom. And you could take the word soccer mom out and just say she's an average suburban mom.
Does she have to be a mom? Because I'm not sure. I don't know.
No, she doesn't have to be a mom. She's whatever it is. And librarian is fine. I'm not married to those details.
Sure.
What I'm looking for is she's not a person that you would expect to be the Antichrist. I don't want to play into cheap cliches. I don't think you need the librarian living with cats who is meek and wears glasses and tweeds and I think that there's a modern version of this movie whereby she's a real person, but she's a real person that is not anything like the person that you would expect
to
be the bringer of doom.
Totally. Well, again, it's isn't it? To go back and reference Terminator.
Yes, Sarah Connor.
Sarah
Connor is a great example because Sarah Connor, look, if you told me that our character starts as Sarah Connor in Terminator 1 and ends the movie as Sarah Connor in Terminator 2, or is heading in that direction, because, and I think that's what ultimately was interesting about that character. And maybe I'm working against my own thing about it being fresh, and yet they don't call her the Antichrist. What's interesting about her is Sarah Connor is the last person you would expect to give birth to the leader of the human resistance.
Totally.
A waitress in a diner. And what's great about that is if I was pitching Terminator, I'd go, a machine is sent back in time to kill the woman who's going to be the mother of the leader of the human race. Oh, and get this. she works in a diner as a waitress.
Totally.
And you
You'd
go,
be like,
oh, that's great.
cool.
And that's funny also.
Yes. Sure.
And that's the thing. That makes you laugh, but it's not a comedy.
Right.
And it makes you laugh because, oh, that's crazy. Like that, seriously? She's just a waitress at a diner? You know? You could have had her as a soccer mom. It wouldn't have worked for the story at hand because she needed to have sex with Kyle Reese, but it would have worked the same way. She's an average woman, and also in that particular movie, she's not anything special, and that's the point.
Yes. And ultimately, I think that's what we're looking for. Is we're finding that.
Neo also, interestingly enough, it's like it's just a guy working at a computer. What's interesting about what I think I'm pitching is, it's the story of the One, only the One means the Antichrist, and not
the One is a bad thing.
I'm telling the Matrix only. What if Neo was actually becoming?
I mean, and again, I think that's an interesting flip on.
That's the flip.
Kind of
it's the flip on the One movie.
You know,
that's the trope that we're flipping.
And then there's something deeply fun about that. Like, you know, pitching the scene. She comes home wherever she works. All of a sudden, she's attacked by demons. You know, suddenly someone's like, "Come with me if you want to live." Bam, blows the demons away as they're peeling away. Like, they're demons. They're after you. Why? Because you're the like, why am I going to give birth to the Messiah? No, you're the Antichrist.
Imagine the scene where Morpheus sits down with Neo and he goes, "I believe in you, Neo, because you're going to destroy the world."
You're actually a machine.
You're actually a machine, and we need you. You know, and but what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually fix you.
Right.
And that's the difference in our demon character, is he's not, again, she's not the one who's trying to make Neo become Neo. It's actually the opposite.
Yeah.
She doesn't want Neo to become Neo.
Yeah.
I have to stop you from becoming the Antichrist. So again, it's a flip on that character as well, of going, you don't want this to happen.
Yeah. So all of this, yes. I will say that in this conversation, and I think it's relevant to what we've currently been talking about and what we currently have outlined, Hank hasn't come into this conversation like hardly at all. It's still about this kind of relationship.
About these two women, I think.
Yeah.
I agree, but I think Hank is a really good supporting character. I don't think he's the lead of the movie anymore.
Yeah,
but I think a very strong supporting character. I mean, look, all of these movies can have very strong.
Absolutely, and that's what they should. Yeah.
You know, in fact, you know, like you think about all the various characters in something like The Matrix, and I think adding in someone with a really great story and a really strong through line who becomes an obstacle and an ally. I think he's a great character.
Yeah, totally.
But it's not his story.
Yeah.
At all.
Okay.
It never really was.
No, it never really was, but he was very much part of the crew from Act 1.
Yeah.
I think this is kind of showing us that perhaps he shouldn't be.
No, I think that the outline of Act 1 now, I would remove Hank and I would have all those same moments probably, or at least similar, because we're going to change the dynamics of the characters. Structurally, I think it will stay very similar, only it'll be just Charlize rescuing her. And
again, I don't mind seeing him, but thinking he's just a bad guy and having him be 2 steps behind them the whole time. And then,
I mean, he can be the guy who witnesses the whole thing, who's in the black hoodie, who had a gun. In fact, we could have like a gun trained on them and he could fire and miss. Like we could think he's an assassin.
Totally. All right. So we're about to wrap up our hour. I think this is good. I think tomorrow we'll just kind of keep digging a little bit on who Sam is in this current iteration. And again, I do just go, do we need to see all this backstory with Charlize first of all, or is it going to be more? And again, I was asking that question.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on, again, it's like, what is if it's the Terminator, you do start with the Terminator. You do need to know.
But here's the thing. You don't know who Kyle Reese and the Terminator actually are until he meets Sarah Connor and tells Sarah Connor who he is.
You don't know which one of them is the bad guy, but you do know who they are because you say the machines send back the fate of the world will be decided tonight. The machines are sending someone back through time.
But again, you don't know what this thing is. You don't know who he like. There's like say like we know who they are. If you're watching that, then it's hard to say coming to it from the first time. But when you like actually observe what's going on, I guess you know he's a robot. But I don't know. I'm just questioning that I
think it also depends on. Look, do we need to see the prologue in that way? Maybe not, but I don't know the history. I think you do need to understand why this demon is doing what she's doing and who she is and where she and why she's living on Earth.
I'm not saying that we lose that necessarily.
I don't know where else it would go.
You just have a big, massive exposition dump.
Yeah.
Are you sitting comfortably?
Are you sitting comfortably? So, 100 years ago, I was with my friend. His name was God. And the two of us went down into the bottom of the thing. But I saw
It's a very good video. It's a very good video for anybody who is on YouTube. There's a great series on YouTube by Jonathan Stokes. And I forget the name of it. And it's very good. But I started to watch one yesterday. Jonathan Stokes is a screenwriter and author. And it's called, what's it called? But he does a series all about screenwriting and I can't even spell.
Link to it in the comments.
I will do. Yes, I'll link to it. But anyway, Google Jonathan Stokes, Raising the Stakes, it's called. And he does a really great one on exposition and it's well worth having a little look at. So,
yes.
Indeed.
Great. Awesome. Right. Thank you everyone for watching and joining us today in our banter, about this wonderful movie.
Yep.
And I just think it's getting better.
Yes, it is. That's the plan.
That's the important part. Yeah. So no commenter from yesterday who I can't remember your name. We are not giving up.
We're not giving up.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Never say die.
We'll see you tomorrow at 2:00.
See you then.